I just want to say I love your work and hope you're all winning big. I'm honoured to be with the amazing relationships and counselling expert, Sue Geelan. And Sue Geelan, how are you today? In fact, today's a special day, isn't it, Sue Geelan?
Yes, it's a big milestone for me. Yes, I'm the big 60, and someone actually wrote a little post on me, sort of said, "Oh no, you're not 6, you're 21 with 39 years experience." I said, "I like that. I can have that." So I'm 21 with 39 years experience.
Oh, there you go. And no one, and by the way, we believe you from an integrity point of view, but no one physically upon visuals believes that you're 60. I know 45-year-olds who look older than you. So I got to say, Sue Geelan, whatever you put in your coffee every day, I want some.
Yeah, no, I think it's the genes from my mum. She didn't look 60 when she passed when I was 21. I can't believe actually that she was 61 when she died. So I'm actually sort of going, okay, well, I'm actually going to be 61 next year, and it's like, okay, I don't think I'll get to this point in time.
There you go. No, I think you're going to be like me. You're going to be around to 100. I'm definitely going to be around to 100. Are you?
I'm looking at it. I've got too much to do. I've got programs to deliver. I've got people to, help save, their lives, their relationships. Too much to do. All right. Yeah, I'd be doing the world a disservice if I stop now just because it's convenient for me. And so that's so I'd actually probably be working till I'm 80, to tell you the truth.
There you go. Now, Sue, I want to ask you now, you're an amazing relationship counselor and expert, and we talk a lot about saving relationships, which I want to come back to. But just before I go into that, what I want to ask you about, Sue, is for those who are single looking for relationships, because we get a lot of people saying, look, I haven't met the right person. I've got a partner. I don't like him, right? Before we go into saving relationships, which I love the dialogue, I'd love to ask you about how do we find the right relationships? How do we identify the right person? So basically, I'm asking you for a bit of dating advice for our viewers out there. If you are watching, like, share, comment, say hello, follow Sue Geelan. Sue, give us a bit of dating advice first before we dive into the relationship rabbit hole.
You're almost asking the wrong person here. I mean, I haven't been on the dating scene for 36 years, and that's coming up, my anniversary. 29th of this month, I will be married 36 years. But dating, thinking back, is that one of the things, that makes, I suppose, love and it, I think one of the things is that, when we get to the right person, right, we get a kind of body sensation, like a little, oh, I've got to pay attention here. It's sort of like, it's sort of as if my body interacts with the person who is my potential, mate, as it were, potential partner. And we have a body connection, type of thing that kind of gives us the courage, I suppose, to sort of go up and say, hey, can I have your phone number? I just sort of saw you, I'm, instantly attracted, that type of thing. So that's one of the things that if you're settling and you don't get the body thing happening, I'd be sort of saying, just wait a little bit, they'll come around. But then, if we're on, we had that first marriage and then we're sort of getting seconds or thirds, then it's almost like, I've got the saying, and I'm going to say it again, is that we fall in love with who they are. We divorce or separate for what they do or do not do. So my sort of thoughts for people who are thinking about dating is, you've got to know the characteristics of your potential partner. If you like to talk, then you've got to find someone who likes to talk as well. If you find someone who says nothing, you got a mismatch here, If you like to, be a hugely outdoors person, and the person's and your part, the person wants to just sort of sit at home and read a book or something, you're not going to find a lot of things in common. So it's almost making a little list, and checking it twice. I don't think it's a little list of the characteristics that you want in a person that matches your own. All right, because that's who we fall in love with, their character, their person.
It's good that you say that because, and again, I am not a dating or relationship coach. I'm a LinkedIn business networking guy. However, I get asked dating questions every day. People, especially women, ask me a lot of dating and relationship questions. And I often bring you up in those conversations. And I agree. I find especially a lot of women, especially, one of the reasons why they have problems in the relationships they're in is they're not clear on what they're after. They're just taking whoever they get. They're not actually thinking, hang on, I want a person who fits this building criteria. I think that's a good point. And I mean, I know this is back in the day as well. I remember I was like that. I think too many, and I've been guilty of this historically, too many people out there don't think about exactly who they want, right?
Yeah,
I
agree.
They take who's interested. They don't take them because that's what they want. I couldn't agree. That's a well said, Sue.
Yeah. I mean, because and I think the universe, if we put out a list of the characteristics of the person that we want to spend the rest of our lives with, then we put it out there as what we do want. Now, one of the things, all right, one of the things that we often do is to sort of say what we don't want. So you sort of, see young people coming up and they're sort of saying, well, I don't want to marry someone like my mother, or I don't want to marry someone like my father, or something like this.
Yeah.
Now, the issue is that our brain cannot denote the word don't.
Yeah.
All right. It doesn't even listen to the word don't. So if we take the don't out of that sentence, what's left? I want to marry someone like my father. All right. So so that ends up they then say this all the time, and then the universe gives them what they've been asking for, which is someone like my father. And I said, well, I didn't want that. Well, so we've got to sort of say not what we don't want, but what we do want. I want someone with integrity. I want someone who communicate. I want someone who can, who's honest. I want someone who can, blah blah blah. In terms of that. So it's asking about what we do want and not what we don't want. So, that's probably the big key, is focusing on what you do want. And I think that was one of the things, because coming from dysfunction that I was like, I had a list in my head. And someone sort of, had people, naysayers and things like this sort of said, look, you know what? No one will ever meet one of those standards. No one will. And I just said, you're wrong. One person in this world will meet and tick every one of my boxes. And I said, I'm not going to get married until they do, because I don't want to get into dysfunctional relationships.
Yeah, and what a terrible, and I couldn't agree with you more, what a terrible thing to say as well. I hear that people saying this a lot. Like, someone will say, I want this type of person, right? And the naysayers will jump on them and for whatever reason say, oh, you're not going to get that. You're asking too much. They're out of your league. I'm really against that sort of thing, because I think you're right. Like, if you're worth it, if you're focusing on that character, you're going to find that amazing person. So I couldn't agree with you more, Sue Geelan. And I'm going to say to those people who said you wouldn't find them, I know that was a long time ago, we should give them a please explain. How did that happen?
Yeah, please explain, how I'm now sort of 36 years, and, you met my husband, David, on the weekend.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, great guy, your husband. He has the most beautiful and kindest energy. I've got to say that, Sue Geelan. Beautiful and kind energy.
Yeah, and I'm sort of, I literally probably owe him my life, and the way that it's sort of come. I also, me with him. But, you sort of see the degrees on the wall here. You see all these?
You're a well-learned woman, Sue Geelan.
Ooh, I wasn't. I was a year 10 dropout, mate. I dropped out at year 10. Mum sort of said, look, I can't afford to send you to school. And she was a bit of a blackmailer. I bought you this and this and this. You do this and this. And so I said, ooh, own money, independence, no mum telling me what to do. I'm getting a job. Thank you very much.
Wow.
So that's how I sort of left school at 15, or I was just 15. Left school, grade 10. So, and a country girl, and, I was sort of down here in terms of vocab, in terms of, life experience and so forth. David was up here. He was a scholar. He was has always been an academic type thing, and it's sort of like, but one of the things that I value most about him, because my mum had always told me, you're a kid, you don't know what you're talking about. So I grew up not valuing my own voice because I'd been told, you're a kid, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So when I had David,
just to jump in there, and I hear this a lot. How did you undo that brainwashing you had? So you were told you were a dropout. You were told a lot of things. How did you start to undo that brainwashing you were brought up with?
Ooh, look, to tell you the truth, I'm not sure, but but for some reason, it sort of went, you know what? Nah, I don't want that. It's sort of like, I want to find something better. I want, sort of something that's better, something that's, different. And so I sort of started, picking brains, at least on relationships and so forth. But I suppose it's taking ownership of saying, well, all this stuff happened and I'm still, kind of dealing with, my past stuff in terms of, physical, or, emotional sort of stuff. But I have, in saying that, it's in spite of that, in spite of where I've come from, I can make an amazing life for myself. And one of the things that I sort of, and maybe that's sort of the strength of character, in terms of saying, that in spite of things, I'm going to forge my own path. And for some reason, I took that power, and I've been forging my own path ever since. David will sort of say to me on if we're walking somewhere, he'll sort of say, oh, do you know where you're going? He said, oh, just follow me. And I keep turning around and say, that is never going to happen. So I don't know why you're asking. So I'm always going to ask because, I'm going to make sure that I'm forging my own path with him sideways. And he said, yeah, I know, you're right, but I've got to get it in. I've got to leave a little dig in sometimes. So that's what I've done is often sort of just take control of who I am and who I want to be. And then, having a partner walk beside you, it's just freaking amazing, because it was him who believed in me, and him that, he never, look, in 36 years, I have never heard him say, Sue, that's a dumb, stupid thing to say, or that's dumb and stupid thing, or anything like this, because I had thought that myself, he always, used to sort of say, yeah, I get where you're coming from, but have you thought of this and have you thought of that? And he kind of grew me up until a point where, within 8 years after we sort of, talked, and we always talked and so forth, he sort of said, look, you've really got the smarts. You should go, and get a university degree. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding. Look, a year 10 dropout here. Yeah. He said, no, you got the smarts for it.
That's one trait I love about you, Sue, and it's very Matrixy. The film The Matrix with Keanu Reeves and all that. It's very Matrixy in how whenever I talk to you, I love how you question your own reality, because you're right, we're brought up to think certain things. We have good brainwashing and bad brainwashing, right? With the bad brainwashing, I love how you question your own reality, and that makes sense. I think it's like, let's say you're living your life and things aren't going well. Sometimes it's good to question, is this the way it's meant to be? Can I do better than this? Can I be better than this? And I just want to ask you very quickly. I know this is probably not the place for it to ask anyway. Where did you meet David?
I actually met him at a Christian college. We actually met. I was his we did a scuba diving course together at the beginning of the year. We did a scuba diving, and I was paired up with him in the pool to share regulators. We had to teach each other how to, share regulators and stuff like this. So I met him.
That's rather romantic.
Just
So you're sharing regulators. It's like a date, isn't it? You're sharing regulators for scuba diving.
Learning how. But then he was chasing someone. He was chasing someone, so he went out with her for a bit until later on in the year when she dropped him. And then he sort of came back. He sort of came to me and sort of said, "Oh, do you want to just get out of here?" And so we went, and our first date, well, not official date, just as friends at the time, we went and saw in Newcastle Short Circuit. That was our first movie that we.
Oh, that was a great film. Disassemble. There you go. I love Short Circuit.
Number 5, Alive.
Alive. There we go.
So that was the movie we went, and then we had sort of dinner and stuff like that, and I had the car, he didn't have the car, so we sort of drove down. Now I was in a girls' dorm which had to be locked in and keyed in and all this sort of stuff, and so it was about 2 or 3 in the morning, fairly this is about August at some point, and so we stayed in the car and talked until the 6 o'clock when the doors opened so I could sneak in.
Oh my God.
So we could sneak in. So every time so we just literally talked all night, just everything and everything like this. And that was sort of almost the beginning. But it was in the first one that I sort of met him, and we were just, doing the course with him. And he was surrounded by a whole heap of girls. Just chatting and stuff like this, and he was just moving from side to side because he was a bit nervous and so forth. And him and a friend of mine and him and I walked down the driveway just for a walk or something like this, and I got the body thing, and I just wanted to literally curl up in his arms, and I'm going, okay, well, what the heck was that? Because I don't feel a lot of things, and I go, ugh. And so I asked him. Like, this is years later, almost sort of, 5-10 years later. I just said, in that walk, did you feel something? And he said, yeah, I just wanted to hold you. I did too. So that was our body thing. And then he went off with this other girl, and I went, okay, well, maybe that's not it. But he may have had to go back to realise that, that he had let go of a good thing. So he came back later.
I gotta say, I love this story. Now, one thing that you really hit on beautifully that I love is we fall in love with people for who they are, and we divorce or separate, or things break down because of what they've done or they haven't done, right? Now, there's going to be a lot of people who are watching this video who are in relationships that are deteriorating, and I want to ask you, right, for those that are in relationships that are deteriorating, obviously they should reach out to you and book a session with you and check out your programs. In terms of beyond that, what if people in a relationship that's deteriorating, what's the first thing you recommend to sort of stop the fall and not necessarily even turn things around, but just stop the decline and get things moving? What's your first sort of, I suppose, circuit breaker you'd recommend there, Sue Geelan?
It would be what I would call my 4 T's, all right? Mm-hmm. Because when we first get into a relationship, we spend time together, we talk, after a few times we add another element, which is touch. And then we're sort of saying, hey, this is going really well. Let's build a team, which includes respect and trust. That's my 4 T's. The issue is if one of these break down, they all break down, okay? And if we're not feeding into love, because love is an emotion that needs to be fed, if we're not feeding into love, what happens to it?
Disappears. Love.
Just starts dissipating. So my first thing, if anything, would be, all right, is to start to spend time and to talk.
Time?
And it's not talk. And it's not talk about past stuff, issues. No, draw a line in the sand and sort of say, you know what, we can't change what happened in the past.
But just on that note, I find that's where a lot of people go wrong. Like one of my really close friends who's having a lot of relationship trouble right now. Yes, I've told her about you, right? She's fighting with her boyfriend. And the thing is, she'd try and talk about the past with her boyfriend. But again, if you do that, it's just going to turn into a fight, isn't it? Like if you bring up,
that's
you
World
did
War Three.
this,
You did this, you did this, you did, and it's World War Three.
Yeah, wait. I think you're right. I think that's where people go wrong. They talk about the past, and they try. I remember years ago, obviously like 20 years ago, I had a partner who was like that. They'd always bring up the past, and they'd always kind of do a "I'm right" and "Eddie, you're wrong" sort of issue. And I remember after a while, I had enough and I walked out. So I guess that makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's not, it doesn't, and a lot of times we've got to build, it's almost like we've got to build a new relationship. If we get to that point, we've got to build a new one. It's got to be a new future and new tools and strategies, because what we're doing is not working. All right. We're not doing it. But that's one of the things that I sort of say to couples is that, we've got to spend time together, but we've got to talk. And talking is not past stuff. Talking is that, and one of the things is your why. Why are you in a relationship, and why do you, and why her and why him or why them, because if you don't know your why, you can't get there. You don't know how to get there. You've got to know why, where you want. You guys at 90, drinking on champagnes or a cup of coffee or something and going, hey, wow, what a ride we've had. What would that ride look like? And I usually sort of say to couples, not now when you're in dysfunction, when you guys were at your best, what was it like? What were you doing? How were you relating to one another when you guys were at your best? Okay. So it's spending time and talking about now, if we're at our best and we put that forward, now how are we going to get there? That's the future, because it has no emotions, and now we're starting to put solutions into it, and that's fixing the doings. Okay. And then one of the things is that I sort of say if touch is a big thing, is that we've got to start touching, and and it's not, and say hey, I'm so angry with him. It's like, well, no, when you're not, I usually sort of one of the home plays that I do for couples within that first session is that you've got to hug for twice a day for 2 minutes by the clock.
Ooh, and they go, I like that.
It's like, what? And I just said, no, you got to. I'll tell you in week 5 why this is important.
Oh, no, I'm just going to jump in and agree with you because, and this is my fault, I probably hug Lassie for 10, 20 seconds, but you can pin that one on me, right? But I love it. You actually got to sit there and hug properly. There you go. No one's ever said that to me before. So there you go. So 10, 20 seconds doesn't cut it. I like that.
No, it doesn't cut it. Because what you're doing is just closing your eyes, getting into each other's presence, and you just breathe to calm down and everything like this. So you can start your day on this good, setting. Yep. And I actually had a client in here just as recently. Who actually sort of said, well, she wasn't a big hugger. Some people aren't big huggers, and it's like, well, suck it up, sunshine, because it's fun, and so she sort of said that I'm not a big hugger, but they started to do it because their relationship was important. And she ended up sort of saying, she said, wow, I said, I didn't think this would work. But she said, over time, we did this morning and night and so forth, it's just, all the other hugs, the intimacies, that's different. This is just 2 minutes by the clock. She said, by the end of it, she said the whole world just slipped away. The stress, the hassle, the everything else just stripped away, and you were just in the here and now with someone that you loved who was just in that space of just holding you. And she sort of said it was like the most profoundest experience I've ever had.
That is so profound, because that would, like, let's say there's a break in your connection, right? That would help rebuild your emotional bond. Is that a fair way of looking at it?
Very much so. And it's the safest, if you sort of said, if you, kissed and so forth, well, that can be too invasive when you're in high emotion. but having a hug is safe. And I'm not talking bear hug. No.
Yeah.
We've
You're,
got to,
you're not talking jujitsu, right? You're talking
yeah,
about, yeah.
we're going to talk safety here. When someone is in high emotion, you don't want to feel as if you're being smothered. That's
Oh,
no.
yeah.
It is just, just just hands on the hips, or, just on the shoulders or something like this, or just lightly around where they feel as if they can, go out, or, if they need to, but it's got to be safe, and it's got to be light, so that you can actually sort of feel safe to do that. So that's one of my suggestions. And then, being a team, you've got to resolve issues. Put issues up on the fridge and go, you know what, let's do 2 talk nights and let's start resolving them. Best outcome, possible solutions, plan of action.
Love it, Sue. I love where you go, Sue. You're a powerful woman who does not mess around. Now, Sue, I just want to ask you, Sue, you're amazing. To anyone watching, and by the way, if you are watching, smash that like, share, and comment. And chances are you're watching the recording. Most of the views are you, legendary winners, watching the recording. To those watching, Sue, who want help with their relationship, how do they get into contact with you, and how do you help them? Tell us all about it, Sue Geelan.
Well, obviously through LinkedIn message. LinkedIn message can sort of phone, can you get me through there? On my page, which is just under Sue Geelan, so spelled Geelan. I've got my contact details, so you can send me an email with your phone number. I can then give you a call back. So we can get that, and I'm on all the social medias under Metanao, METANAO. You put that in anywhere and you will find me. You will find me, because I'm on all the socials. Sort of do that. And usually my first session is with everybody, whether they be single, whether they be, need individual help. We've got to know when we're triggered. We've got to be able to deal with the emotions, those high emotions, to realize what's happening. So usually my first session is, we've got to stop the fighting. That's it. That's the first session. And we've got to understand why we're triggered and how we're triggered, and understand that we've got control over how we do that, because we've got our superpower.
And a lot of people approach you in that fight. And just out of pure interest, right, is it mostly the men or women who approach you? Is it even? Do they approach you when they're fighting? Tell us a bit about the common situation. Lassie and I were talking about the other day. What's the common character and situation that you get approached with?
Most people come in here because usually my first question is, what is your best hopes from this session today? That's my first question. And usually, and listen, someone asked me this, and I said, look, it is literally about 50, 50% male, 50% female will actually give me a phone call. It may be that the females maybe sort of saying, okay, this is the last straw. If you want to save this, you go find someone. It may be that situation, but at least they've taken the initiative. They've phoned me. They've done their research. They've looked at my reviews. I've got some amazing reviews, from some, very gracious, willing clients who was actually were able to give me some amazing reviews, which is nice. And I appreciate that very much. And then usually they'll book in through my calendar, book in and pay for it, or they ring me up and sort of say, hey, can I have some more information? Which, I'm quite happy to do. So they can do that. That's probably the best way. And usually, yes, my first session is we've got to stop the fighting, so that we can do all the fun stuff, which is your 40s. Spending time together, talking, touching, being a team. And you've got to know how to do that. And so I don't go back to the past. I don't go back to the issues. The issues are done. What I do sort of say is that, guys, just pin those. not sweep them under the carpet that they did. You know, if there's infidelity, broken trust, just pin that, because we are not in an emotional state to actually go looking at that, because we haven't put anything new into the relationship. We haven't built the relationship up.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the first thing we do. And then at the end, if need be, we can unpill it.
Oh.
And sort of deal with that. And most times it'd be null and void, because they put new tools and strategies in place and they build a new relationship. This stuff, not relevant anymore.
I remember back to this partner from 20, 25 years ago, showing my age. It's funny actually, because whenever I remember, I don't know why, whenever I talk to you, I always think about this lady from 25 years ago. She's like you would say she's the opposite of Lassie, is a fair way of putting it, right? It's a very fair comment. Right? Hence why I married and love Lassie, right? But what I found fascinating is that it's exactly what you said, like the opposite of what you said, is that I'd sit down with her and talk about what we're going to do in the future, and she'd always bring it back to the past and always want to score a few hits on me, right? And I remember that one time I just had enough. She just scored too many hits on me. And you know what? It's what you said before. I had no feeling of love anymore. It's like, oh, bless you. And bless you. And Frank, you just jump in. Happy birthday to Sue Geelan again, right?
Thank you.
I can't believe you're 60. Anyway, but what I remember though is that she'd always bring up the past, score a few hits on me, and over time the love just disappeared, right? And it went. I didn't hate her or despise her, but in a way, I was just fed up with it, right? Fed up with it. And one day, she just broke me. She just made the final point, and I'm like, I'm out. I've had enough. That's it. I've had enough. And it's funny how it works like that. I agree with you, because in the past, there's nothing but tit for tat, right? You're not going to. I agree with your future focus. I think it's very, very, very smart, Sue Geelan.
Yeah, no, it's there. Nobody wins. Nobody wins when we do tit for tat, and it's just and oftentimes we fight about emotion, and emotions don't have solutions, none. And so that's why we're just fighting tit for tat, tit for tat.
Yeah.
And it just goes down the sinkhole in a big way.
Yeah.
So you know, and I keep sort of saying to you know, sort of clients that you can get to a point. You know, some people sort of say, you know, look, you know, but fighting's are healthy. And you know, I'm sort of going, okay. I mean, I'm not sort of, you know, we can have disagreements. I'm talking about the real yelling and screaming, or the shutting down for days and weeks. That's probably that I'm talking. But you know, you don't need to when you solve issues. If you've resolved the issues, you don't need to fight, because we fight about the doings. We fight about the doings. You know, you're not doing this, or you're not doing this, or you're not respecting me, you're not trusting me, you're not supporting me, you know, all the doings. We'll find solutions for them. You know, because every time you have a fight, it starts with a trigger. And I'm telling you that every trigger has a solution. Every trigger has a solution. What we fight about is emotions, and emotions don't have solutions. You know, and so it's sort of like, why do this? You know, because you're the only one that feels your emotions. And if you're feeling it's like, you know what, you hurt me this time, why am I want to hurt myself again now? Like, not worth the effort. Let's find solutions. Let's fix it. And David and I would be, look, it must be all of about 15 years since we've had a fight.
There we go.
Don't need to. And what's left? The 4Gs. We hang out, we spend time, we talk, we touch. It's a no-brainer here. This do all the fun stuff.
So I got to say, you inspire me. This has been a legendary live. Happy birthday to you again. Anyone who's watching, if you want some help, please reach out to Sue on LinkedIn, or ask me for an intro, or reach out to Sue direct. Sue, thank you so much. I just want to say before we finish up, so we've been here for over 30 minutes. It felt like 4 minutes. I'm just going to let some engage. Sue, can we please hear a closing monologue for you? If there's anything you want to say, we'd love to hear it. Give us a closing monologue, and we appreciate you, Sue.
Okay, one of the things, right? Here's probably another Sueism is don't let your past define your future.
Oh yeah. Yes.
You've got control. You just need some tools and strategies to be able to create a new future for yourself, either as an individual or as a couple, and I can help you get there. That's all. Okay. Don't let the past, whatever past, define your future. You've got the power. You've got control.
Sue, love your work. Sue, thank you for your time. Appreciate you big time, Sue.
Thanks so much.
I love your work, everyone. Stay awesome.
Bye, everybody. You be well. Reach out if you need me. Reach out. I know I can help.